Today's guest is the pioneer of youth travel baseball. Over 500 kids that have played for him have realized their dream of playing Division I baseball. And over 50 of them, have gone on to play in the big leagues. The players love his approach, and he cares about his players. Today's guest is Rob Bruno.
Welcome to another episode of the Baseball Awakening Podcast, where we dive into the raw, unfiltered, unsexy side of player development. Get ready for some knowledge bombs with your host, Geoff Rottmayer.
Welcome to the Baseball Awakening Podcast. I'm Geoff Rottmayer, and today I've got Rob Bruno on the other line. Rob, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great today, Geoff. How are you?
I'm doing great, Rob. I'm glad to have you on. So, Rob, you've been a guy that has been around youth travel ball scene for a long time. You have a pretty successful organization in NorCal with a good reputation. So, it's nice to have you on to kind of pick your mind on the topic. But let's start with kind of your story in baseball and then how you got into starting the NorCal organization.
Well, it's kind of interesting. My personal background is I played high school and then for a year tried in college and I honestly got hurt and I was done. And so football and baseball were things that I did enjoy. Better at powerlifting than all that kind of stuff. Baseball is my passion. Shoulder and knee kind of held me back from doing anything else football, baseball wise. But as I always say, that probably 95% plus of the guys that I've had through my program would have been better than me anyway. So I was a good 4 o'clock hitter, for instance. It comes 7 o'clock. That's another subject. They start speeding things up and spinning the ball.
Right.
And that things changed real quick. But getting back, I started the program kind of fall of 91, spring of 92. So this is, 27th year coming up somewhere around there. Tony Crivello has been with me since 1995, and he and I co-run the program since then. So he's been with me, ever since he was about 21 years old. So it works out great. He's a left brain analytical guy. I'm a right brain creative guy, and he talks me off the wall to make crazy situations, but I push him to say, hey, let's try this. And so far, so good. It's been great.
Nice. And so when you first started in 91, 92,
yeah,
what was your vision? What was the problem that you saw and felt you had a solution?
Here's how we started, and here's why I started. I put together a pony colt program along with a couple other guys in the San Ramon Valley area, which is right outside it's in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's in the suburbs. And I was also coaching, I did a little bit of high school stuff, but I coached Pop Warner football. And a lot of my guys, I really kind of gotten tired of the whole football thing, honestly, for coaching. A lot of my guys wanted to play fall ball instead of football going into their freshman year in high school. And I said, hey, let's experiment. Let's go check it out. At that time, Geoff, very, very little fall baseball was being accomplished at that point. It's just something nobody really did. So what I was doing was I was calling up a lot of the teams that we played in Pony All-Stars. Invariably, they come back and say, hey, we don't play fall ball, but this one guy, Keith Ibisovich, would be a name that I'll use because he played for us right off the bat, our best player, and he would love to come play. And so that's kind of how it started. We started just accumulating guys kind of like chess pieces, and it worked out really, really well.
And when you started this fall league, what was other than, you wanting to play, what was...
I guess why we started this thing. We wanted to give a platform for good players to play against good players. And back then, there was again, Pony Colt, but there was Babe Ruth, American Legion, not as much going on as you would think, and the quality was kind of limited by geographically where you are. So this opened things up. We were more independent, and there were very few good independent teams. I remember the Oakland Silver Sox and the Peninsula Mets, and they were the same age as we were. Back then we did it by age, and now we do everything by grade, but they were the same age. And so what we would do is we'd beat the heck out of each other. I mean, they had some pro guys and college guys also, just like we did, and it was just great. And we felt like this was a good atmosphere for our kids to get better. With the first year, AAU was a big deal then, and AAU was bigger than anything at that point. And so we went out to Charlotte, North Carolina, summer of '92, and 1,500 national championships, and we won our first national championship our first year out. Of course, nice. We were talented. That's everything as far as if you want to have a great team, you have to have some talent, and we were. So yeah.
Nice. So obviously, since you have started, the whole travel ball culture had changed dramatically. So can you kind of talk a little bit about some of the differences between now and then?
Sure. Yeah. Back then, we still played in some league stuff, and I love the concept of leagues, and I want to try and bring back a league concept because I think part of that's missing.
Yes.
A lot of times also, Geoff, you would have qualifiers to go play national things. And now, you know what? People just plan around tournaments. You don't even have to qualify anymore. Right. So those are the things that change. And of course, Perfect Game came in and I think their intentions were great at first. I really do. They had some really neat things, and I really like the people individually. But back then there just weren't that many things going on. The biggest showcase company was Team One. Team One really did a fantastic job. Now they sold and it changed, but Jeff Spellman really was unbelievable in what he did. And actually, originally, I would tell you that Area Codes was the original, but Jeff did an amazing job with the Team One stuff. And we've actually had our own showcase stuff, but we do our showcase stuff pretty much to showcase our guys, along with all the talent in Northern and Central California. But from there, this has become a huge cottage industry in the last 15 years, and it's kind of gotten out of control. Yeah. The people that we didn't get into this to make money. Trust me. Right. Our Tony and I, our joke is we're a nonprofit organization, and we prove it every year. Yeah. If we come neutral and we break even, we're thrilled. But the thing now is, you've got these academies, and they're there to make money, and the people that are getting rich are tournament directors and promoters and showcase people, and it's become a little crazy. We're looking to do a better job for our players for the development part, and to also just cut the cost down because it's gotten cost prohibitive. Right. Geoff, I could go on and on. We're doing a horrible job for kids in the inner cities. Yeah. We've got to do a better job there. A lot of our kids, our makeup in our teams is a lot different than the teams that we see. 30 to 40% of our kids can't pay. Yeah. But we've never precluded a guy from playing NorCal baseball because of finances. It's, this is our way of giving back, and that's kind of what we stand for. And we've got to move towards that. There are some groups out there that are doing the right things, and we want to be like-minded like them.
Nice. So whenever you started your team and now you're having success and you're wanting to help more kids and your organization starts growing, can you kind of talk about the process that you use to find guys? Because, you want to put a competitive team together, and, it's not for everyone,
no.
Yet. You can get there, but it's not for everyone yet. So can you kind of talk about your process?
Well, as far as putting together our teams, I would tell you it's at first, it's interesting. At first, it was a lot of recruiting and kind of selling the vision of what we wanted to try and get accomplished. Good players playing with good players against good players, and finding different places to show and kind of show everybody what these guys were made of. At that point, it was a lot of work. It was going out and watching games. It was taking notes. It was meeting with people, that kind of thing. It evolved a little bit. And guys started coming to us, with referrals and that kind of stuff. Hey, you know what? I've got a teammate, two grades behind me, that this kid needs to play for you. He needs to be around what you guys do. And again, it's about development for us. The exposure stuff, we don't care. We don't tell our kids to join us because of exposure. As a matter of fact, if they want to join us because of exposure, we don't really want them. Yeah. We want guys who want to get better, want to develop, learn how to win, and be part of a legacy of just quality people on and off the field. That's what we strive for.
Right. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because there are all these development leagues out there. So can you talk about the difference between what you guys do versus the other development teams?
Well, I prefer the name development team, development program over travel ball. Yeah. My feeling is travel ball, my definition of travel ball is little league on wheels. Anybody can do it. Right. It's important for us to get better. We try and have people that are really smart come in and talk to our guys. I've been really fortunate to have some amazing people that are national guys, and I always joke, like with Alan Jager, J-Bands is arm throwing and arm care program is long toss. I knew Alan before he was Alan. I've known Alan for 25 years, and I think he's one of the best guys in the country. Steve Springer, same. Steve's probably the best mental hitting guy in the country. Works with some of the most amazing all-star hitters in the game. Guys like Jerry Weinstein, who I think is the smartest man I've ever met in my life, who was just a mentor to me, but a mentor to really the big league managers. Yeah. And he's one of the most giving people of his knowledge that I've ever been around. He's a national baseball treasure, is what he is. People like that have really made huge differences in our guys in our program, because we take what they say to heart and we use what they say to heart. We're not just throwing out 9 gloves and playing. Our feeling is we need to get better. We're not okay to beat somebody 10-0. We learn nothing from that. If we go and get beat by the East Cobb Astros with Gary Baldwin, who I think is the pioneer of youth baseball for the last 25 to 30 years, he's really the guy. If we lose to them 3-2 and then beat them 3-2, we learn a lot more about ourselves from that. And that's why we do national things also, Geoff. Yeah. We use those as a measuring stick. How are we doing against the East Cobb Astros? How are we doing against the Orlando Scorpions? How are we doing against the BPA guys down in Southern California? Some of the best teams in the country, or the CBAs of the world. Those are the things, those are the measuring sticks. And then our kids can figure out, okay, I'm pretty good, but those guys are pretty good too. And it always gives them the impetus to work even harder coming back. That's why we do it.
Nice. And one thing that I see, and I don't have teams anymore, but yeah, one thing that I observe with teams like yours is, there's more to it than just going out and playing. There's more to it than the mechanics. You guys work on the whole IQ part and really understanding how to play the game part. And I think that's missing tremendously in the youth game culture.
Well, there's no question, and learning how to win, the development part of that. We say that being a great teammate is the most important thing, the best compliment you could ever give anybody. We want our guys to do a great job. I learned a long time ago to listen to smart people and then implement what they have. Mike Luna is kind of a legendary guy in the Bay Area, and Mike's forgotten more baseball than I'll ever know. But he taught me a lot about short game stuff. He taught me a lot about different aspects of the game. Doug Robb was another guy who was from the San Jose area. But those are the things that are important. If we're on the bench, we call the bench the learning center. Yes. That dugout's the learning center. If you're up to 7th inning, you have 6 mental at bats before that. If we're running, what are we looking for? We're looking for, is there a certain cadence? Is this guy a rhythm guy? He's going on C all the time. Come set, go C. We use UCLA. Is he a 2-look maximum guy at second base? What are his tendencies to when he gets into a first pitch situation? Is he always the guy who's going to go first pitch strike? And then 90% of the time we found that they're going to go off speed after either the first or second pitch that's a fastball strike. And so our guys are always looking for those kind of things.
Nice.
We sprint on and off the field.
Yes.
We feel like we want to show people that, that's kind of what we're about. Sprinting on and off the field, doing a good job there. I tell them, hey, you know what, you can jog on the field when you're in the big leagues. That's fine. But until then, you're going to respect the game, respect your opponents, the whole thing. So those little things are important to us. Our gloves and our hats are together on the inside pole for the infielders, on the outside pole for the outfielders. Pitcher doesn't go out to take the mound unless he walks out with the catcher at the same time. Vice versa with the catcher. So just little things like that. When we're on the bases, we make sure that we do a little scope of the outfield. Make sure we find out what their defensive alignment is. So we know that we can be our own best base running coach, so to speak. Those are the things that we want to do. Our leadoff guy, when he comes back, he's going to give a little report on what he saw, whether it's movement, something else. Second hat, third hat guys are getting ready before looking and finding out where the release point is, working on their stride, working on timing. Hitting is crazy these days. You look at Twitter and you can get really confused, but the two things that matter the most for sure is if you see the ball well and you're on time. You've got a chance.
Right.
I don't care what kind of swing you got. You've got a chance there.
Right.
Not enough hitting is taught. More of the swing is taught.
Right.
And it's a little bit out of control. We can talk launch angle all day long. We're big believers in launch angle. That's great. Geoff, our thought is this. There's 5 guys situated in a half-acre spot in the infield and 3 guys situated in a 2.5-acre spot in the outfield. Where's the most logical place to hit it? Well, it's the outfield. So those are things that we can talk all day long. But what's happened is we got a bunch of pull-happy guys that are trying to just lift the ball, and we forgot how to hit.
Right.
We forgot how to take an approach.
Right.
So those are some of the things that we try and talk about. Everybody's talking about lately, Geoff, the shift. Well, who won the the National League MVP this year?
Mm-hmm.
The guy from the Brewers,
Right.
And that guy, he hits to all fields. Chris Davis, everybody says thinks is a pull guy. His best power area for a lot of times is right center, oppo gap.
Right. So
if you learn to hit, then you don't need to worry about just that the shift. You can defeat a shift by hitting the ball where it's pitched.
Right.
That's my opinion.
I love it. That stuff fires me up because there's just not enough of that type of talk going on. But let me ask you this.
Sure.
You got, obviously, that stuff takes time to develop.
Yeah.
You preach, there are things that you gotta watch. So how do you guys, they're there, they want to learn how to play, they're learning and stuff. So how do your coaches go about teaching this awareness? Because we can tell a kid, here's what you need to do and here's what you need to watch, but they have no clue what they're looking at. So over time, what do you say to your players to get them to start paying attention?
Well, I think we reward the good stuff. We reward not a double, but we reward a guy hustling on off the field. We reward a guy swinging at the proper pitches. We reward a guy that's got doing a good job with backup responsibilities. You reward the quality things and the things that you can control.
Nice.
You'll never hear us get upset at a guy that strikes out swinging, or a guy that walks a guy, or the guy that kicks the ball for an error. We can't control those things. That guy is mad enough at himself, and it doesn't make any sense to get even madder at somebody who's already going to be tougher on him than I could ever be.
Right.
So I think we reward the positive things.
Nice.
And then we use every single time, and this is how I do it, and Tony does to a certain extent. They always say, that games are for players, and I believe that. There's no question, but I also think that every time there's a mistake made, it's a learning lesson each and every time. So if a guy gets picked off because he's reading something wrong, or you're not paying attention or something, we can always use that because it'll apply to everybody. And so we make sure that it doesn't go by. We fix it right there, and we make sure everybody understands that.
I love it. So when you have a guy that is coming into your program for the first time, what is the conversation like to get them to understand that these are our expectations? You know, this is how we do things, and you're either in with it, on board with it, or you're out. You know, so what's that conversation like?
We don't worry about whether a guy is in or he's out. I think we go about it in a positive way, saying, "Hey, this is how you play the game the right way. This is how you respect the game the right way. Here's how we warm up. Here's how we do things, and then we tell them why. We want them to know why we do these things. To get them prepared. It's our job to get them be prepared to play at the next level. We feel like there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You got to sharpen the wheel once in a while, but we've told them we're going to give these next guys the same opportunities and the same coaching and the same advice we gave to the 500 plus guys that moved on to Division I with a scholarship, or the 51 guys that have played in the big leagues from our program, or the 21st rounders, or the 10 All-Stars, or the 2 MVPs. They're going to get the same information, and then it's up to them to run with it. We don't have a lot of time, Geoff, for practice, so we do try and get there early and put in our practice stuff. We don't have a lot of plays, so to speak. Very few double steal situations. Very few bunt situations as far as defensive. We try and keep those to a minimum, and we just try and do a great job with it. Do a great job with the minimum stuff. We spend more time. 90% of our practice time is some pitching aspect and some hitting aspect. I feel like this game is about 90% of the time matchups between hitter and pitcher. So we spend right around 90% of our time working on that.
Nice. That's a good way of looking at it.
The mental part's big for us too.
Yeah,
it really is. We've had some great people with that part. I love what Alan Jaeger talks about for the pitching guys. I love what Steve Springer talks about for the hitting guys. We've also introduced a lot of different other things as well. All of our guys, Dr. Ken Ravizza, who just passed away, is truly a legend. We use a lot of his stuff too. Red, yellow, green, as far as looking at the lights. If you're having a tough time, slow down. Step off and re-anchor. If things are going right, hey, great, let's go. But we're big in visualization. We're big in feeling right. We don't put a whole lot of emphasis on stats. We use some different stats. A lot of people say first pitch strike. We like that. But if you win the first 2 out of 3, that's even better.
Yeah.
Win 2 out of 3, and that's fantastic. Hitting wise, we're looking at attacking the fastball early, but we're looking at attacking fastball knees to waist down, and then after that we might look geographically, is it middle in or middle out? So those are the things that we try and have a plan. Every hitter has got to have a plan before he goes up, whether it's a deep breath, visualize, focus on something on the bat, and then quiet. It might be the pitcher who gets on the mound, takes a sign, deep breath again, visualizes success, and then attacks that zone. But all our guys try and develop a routine, and that will help them down the line.
Right. I agree. So when you talk about the visualization, that's something that I like to talk about. So how do you get your guys to do that? Because it's not one of those things that you can look at them and say, okay, yeah, you're doing it right. So how do you coach your guys to kind of start that visualization process?
Well, we give them examples of what works for other people, and then we tell them what works for you. It might be one little thing. It might be 3 things that they say to themselves. We tell them to work on it at night. Work on being cognizant of your breathing right before you go to bed. It's a good time to do it. You've got 10 or 15 minutes where you can start visualizing pitching. You can visualize hitting. You can work on in your breath. My thought is, and I got this from Alan Jagger, guy a lot smarter than me. If you're working on breathing and you're attentive to that, you don't have to worry about all the external influences outside.
Right.
You're thinking inside out, and you're blocking out all those things, and you're able to just get into what you're trying to get done. It's kind of like I just saw that movie. I forgot what it's called, but with Billy Chapel, Costner. Turn on the mechanism, and shut out all the extra sound, and just get into what you're doing. And the quieter you can get, the slower things are.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal in big situations. Thinking outside in is really tough with all the external stuff and listening to everything. But if you can think inside out and slow down and really breathe, it really helps.
Yeah, and just for the people that are listening, can you kind of explain what quieting things down means?
Well, quieting things down, part of it is if you're concentrating, again, on the breathing part, that really helps. And one of the reasons why is now you're thinking, okay, inhale, exhale, slowing everything down, kind of thinking about that instead of thinking about, I got to do this, I got to do that. When we go up and we hit, what we're concentrating on thinking about is we're thinking about attacking the ball and putting the ball in play hard. We're not thinking about results. We're thinking about process. What are we going to try and do? Our concentration is on seeing the ball well, being on time, and attacking the ball and hitting the ball hard. Now, if you're thinking about I got a double, I got a triple, it's not going to work. You can't control that. You can hit an absolute rocket to center field, and the guy makes a circus catch, or 3 shots in a row at short. Well, we're going to applaud that. We're going to applaud those kind of things because you all you can control is the process. Right.
I love it. So you've been at this thing for a long time. You know, the culture in general it's just crazy, man. So obviously somewhere along the line you've had some kids that were unhappy. How do you manage that?
Well, as far as the culture, I think there's too much worrying about exposure, too much worrying about individual. I think that we're going to get a T-shirt, and one of the T-shirts is going to be with 3 guys on their kind of resting their elbows on the fence inside the dugout, and the guy in the middle is going to be saying, "I'm playing for my brother on my left and my brother on my right, and nobody in the stands." Too many people get caught up in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm not big on individual events. I don't need our guys to go to some event to where they're going to get a video of them, and then they're going to get ranked, and then the family is going to buy a subscription so they can make those people money. What do you get out of that? I mean, especially the ones that, there's one that's happening in January in our area. First of all, it's going to be really cold.
Yeah.
Second of all, nobody's going to be there.
Right.
So what value is that? There's zero value.
Yeah.
The only value is the dollar sign for that promoter.
Right.
So those are the things that we try and educate our parents, and we try and educate them and say, you know what, the best thing you can do is get in a competitive situation and find out how you play as a team. A lot of guys do well in showcases, but they don't do as well in games. And I think coaches were tricked for a long time watching a guy, and all of a sudden, okay, he lights up the gun, and by the way, he hits a long foul ball. But you get him in a game, there's a different pressure, and our guys, I think, thrive better under pressure in games.
Yeah. So how do you coach that?
Well, just the more you do, the more you play. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the conversation like with a parent, letting them know how things are? What's that conversation like? Because baseball parents need a lot of education.
Yeah. We have to educate the parents as much as anybody else because they buy into all this other stuff. They buy into things that really aren't important.
Right.
Like rankings. There's only
Right.
2 rankings that matter. The team the college program that signs you to a letter of intent, and the pro team that drafts you. Those are the only rankings that ever matter.
Right.
Team rankings don't matter. None of that stuff matters. Because it's false anyway. I'll give you a good example. We go out this year, our 2019 team, bunch of no names as far as the organization we played in, because we don't have anybody ranked high. We go to the Perfect Game World Series in Arizona this last July. We proceed to win the tournament, and the reason why we won is because our guys played together. They played as a team, and it worked out to where we played a bunch of highly ranked guys who sometimes they didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
So our guys understand, hey, we're going to play as a team. We're going to play for each other. And we came out on top. Now, here's the interesting thing. We beat the number 1 team right on the field, and then we win the biggest tournament that's being held from that organization. Yet we end up 3rd in the rankings. How does that happen?
Yeah.
That just tells you we didn't play in enough tournaments for them.
Yeah.
Is that how you measure success? Is that how you measure the best? Well, no, you measure the best on the field. So we did it on the field, so our kids feel great. Those are the important things.
Right. So what's the conversation like with a parent who, let's say, he's unhappy or, with playing time or whatever? What's the conversation like with a parent that is unhappy?
We don't usually worry about that. I don't want to hear from a parent. Just don't.
Yeah.
We rarely do. If a player has a question, I want to hear from the player. He's got to stand up for himself. I won't name a player, but I had a guy that's now he's a freshman in college, and he came up twice to me on different things. And this young man is phenomenal. He's going to a school in Southern California, a great academic school, playing baseball there. He made 2 great points, and I said, you know what? You're right. I need you to work at this position more. And then the second time, he said, I think I can help the team more if I played more, and here's why. And second time, I said, you're absolutely right. We need to make a change. I respect the heck out of kids who can do that. For parents, I pretty much tell them, we're doing what we feel is best for your players, but also where we project you position-wise, that kind of thing. Well, my kid's a shortstop. Well, guess what? He's really going to be a center fielder.
Right.
And those are the kind of things that we try and help with. And we say, this is under 25 years of experience. We feel this is where he fits best.
Yeah.
And so, we usually don't have too many challenges. There's always going to be a couple parents, and that's
Sure.
fine.
Sure.
I guess the answer to that is, if you don't like it, here's your money back. I'll find somebody better.
Yeah.
And we do.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen much. Our guys, they get it. They get it more than other guys.
Yeah.
We see guys that jump from team to team. Usually our guys are with us a long time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I say this to our people, you guys get it. There is the whole getting it part. So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What's the relationship like with high school coaches, in terms of you guys being on the same page or maybe you're not, so what's the relationship like with the high school coaches in your area?
Well, it can vary. It's really our goal to complement what they do.
Yeah.
We really do want to be on the same page. Now, there are a couple of knuckleheads
Sure.
who will go nameless because I just have no respect for them. But as a rule, I love high school coaches.
Yeah.
I think they do a great job. So does Tony. Tony and I, Tony's the director of our World Series, and we've been doing this I started it over 20 years ago. And what we did from that was Tony thought this would be a great idea, and I absolutely agree with him. We have our NorCal shirts that they wear at the tournament. It's a World Series, and it's geographically we try and put it together by section in our areas. But what they do, the kids wear their high school hats to represent their high school, and we feel that's a really a neat thing.
Nice.
Most of it's important. It's important because those guys do, as a rule, they do a great job. As a rule, the summer guys do a great job. Are there knuckleheads in both? Absolutely. You got to overcome those things. But the better ones, besides a couple, that it's unfortunately they're just ignorant. That's fine. There's a lot of ignorant guys in the summertime too. They don't get it, and they hurt their players by not allowing them to do some things. John Whitman is a guy that I think was a legendary high school coach from the Antioch area, in my area. And he coached with us also, and he always said this. He said, I want my best players to go out and play at a high level with other kids during the summertime and maybe in the fall too. And then when they come back, there's two things that are going to happen. Hey, coach, I learned a couple things, and I think this will allow me to be better for our team. Or, coach, you know what? You're right. I didn't have a great experience, and you were right. What you were talking about, and I agree. Either one's going to be a good thing for that coach. But if their players get better playing with somebody else, and it brings something to them, and then those coaches can work with some of the guys that aren't quite as good and bring up the bottom rung, hey, isn't that a win for the high school coaches?
Yeah, I agree. So with that, is there ever a conversation where you have a guy that's playing for one of these knuckleheads and he says, my coach said I'm doing everything wrong? And again, you're just teaching them how to play the game.
Right.
How do you tell a kid to handle that? Because they got to deal with that kind of every day. So how did the kid manage that conversation with his coach?
Well, you want the kids to do things first. And then if the parents have to intervene, the parents have to intervene and do what's right for their kid. More parents need to intervene and do what's right for their kid.
Yeah.
There's no question in my mind that doesn't happen enough. You can't bend over for somebody and if they're demanding something and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And parents really have to, they some of these guys think they're baseball gods and they control and all I know is slavery's been abolished for decades and decades, 150 years, whatever it is, 200 years. And so, they don't own these kids. The kids need to make good decisions. Now, don't get me wrong. We need to complement the high school programs.
Sure.
And I know we do, and the better ones do,
sure,
because they do a great job.
Sure.
And here's the other thing. They have them on a daily basis. Most of them are teachers.
Right.
So we have to do a great job complementing what they do. There's a problem in certain areas that, I'll give you Southern California is a good example because of the weather. And our weather is pretty good in Northern California too, but all the Sunbelt areas, Southern California's got the worst deal in the bunch. When it comes to the fall, a lot of these guys have had a long summer that are pitchers that are, elite guys. They got their regular summer stuff, and then they've got area codes, all those things. Now they get into the fall. They've got three factions working. You got your high school fall program, you've got your summer fall program that the guys are doing in high school, and then you got scout teams. Well, nobody wins in that thing unless you're working together in concert to make sure, especially the pitchers, you're taking care of those guys. Too many guys throw way too much. And the problem that I see, especially in Southern California, guys break down because they're playing too much, they're throwing too much, they don't have a plan, and they're trying to please everybody. You can't please everybody. You got to make sure that you do a great job taking care of yourself.
Right. So what do you see? You've been at this for quite some time. What do you see coming? What's the future of youth baseball?
Well, I think we have to get back to some normalcy. I think I love the league concept. We're going to try and do some league things.
Yeah.
I'm involved with Program 15 out of Houston. Program 15 Future Stars Series with Jeremy Booth. I got into this about 2 years ago with Jeremy. I really like his vision, and he's the reason why we're doing that. The tournaments are great. That's fine.
Yeah.
But they go around and have development scout weekends around the country. Bring in some unbelievable guys. Take video of the guys. Teach them some stuff that just guys, unless you played in the major leagues and have been around the game, just don't know. Some just invaluable stuff like, hey, you know what? When I was struggling, here's what I worked. Little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out to their tournaments, the first day is working on development stuff as well as getting a baseline on certain skills. So you know what your 60 time is, you know what your shuttle time is, you know what your vertical is, little things that are tested. And then, you know what, you do it 6 months later, and then 6 months later, and find out if you're making some progress. Because people want athletic guys. They want guys who have a strong arm. They want guys who can run, guys that have a good vertical. Because a good vertical means that you're explosive. So those are the things that they care about. I would tell you that Jeremy and a couple of the guys there literally helped 2 or 3 of my guys this year get scholarships based on their relationships.
Yeah.
So it's about the player, and it's not about what the organization is giving to them as a paycheck and just cashing it and taking advantage. They're giving back. They're doing also a good job with inner city kids, which is near and dear to my heart as well. Putting together a program to where these kids get seen in front of college coaches, in front of pro scouts, because I think the way it's gone, it's gotten to be too expensive for a lot of families.
Yeah.
So the middle class, lower middle class kids are not getting the advantages that the upper middle class kids are in the summertime. We try and do our best to do that, and we are. Other groups, maybe not as much. But the Future Stars series with Program 50 with Jeremy, they're really doing a great job with that.
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job too. Rob, I wanted to ask you, I love the idea of league play. If you had to picture how this league play would go, what do you see?
Well, what we're going to try and do is come together with about 5 or 6 programs in northern Central California. Come up with one game during the week, a couple games during a weekend, within like about a 6-week period, to where you can't do it every weekend because there are some tournaments and things that guys get involved with. But if we could do it where we do like a home and home with each group, and then put together like a little league thing, and it doesn't matter who wins, but
Right.
it gives you great games. I won't even call it even in a non-pressure situation, but it's kind of fun, Hey, you lose the first one. Hey, you got to win the next 2, or you're going to lose the game in the standings. That's what baseball is. I mean, college baseball, there's leagues. Professional baseball, there's leagues. It's not just showcasing; it's playing for something. Playing for something local like that would make it a lot of fun. But it's also kind of a non-pressure situation where you can just, hey, you know what? That's this kid's turn to pitch. This kid's turn to catch. You don't worry about that stuff. You don't worry about, well, I gotta win the semifinal game to win to the finals. Well, who cares?
Right.
This is time to develop, and I think it'll help out with development.
I agree. So if I were a guy who is looking to start an organization, kind of like NorCal, in the tough conditions that we are in today's, if you had to start today, where would you start?
Oh, good question. What I think that the first thing I would do is ask myself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What are my intentions? What am I getting out of this thing? Why am I doing this? Am I doing this to give back, or am I doing this to make money? If you're doing it to make money, there's nothing wrong with making money, making a living, helping people. I get that.
Right.
But if that's your only thing that you got that's motivating you to do this, you're not in it for the right reasons.
Right.
If it's your way of giving back and helping out with the knowledge that you've got, I think it makes some sense. That would be number one. Number two, I would be picking the brain of guys that have done this for a long time to say, hey, I want to start this. What are your thoughts? What's the best way to do that? Recruiting wise, tournament wise, what makes the most sense? Where are the best teams going so I can have a good competition? And then, find out, and you have to have some kind of factor that makes you separate from everybody else. I mean, okay, we're going to be working on this, and this, and that's what makes us different. And that's, if you want to play with us, you're going to get this kind of development. And so find something that separates you from everybody else also, I think.
Yeah, and there's the education part. In today's culture, to do it right, it's going to be a rough start. So because I tried this several years ago after reaching out to guys like yourself, And it's the whole trusting the process part that was kind of tough, and dealing with the current condition, despite, I had a why, but I had another battle that I was fighting with my facility.
Well, the challenge is it's so saturated. If you bring something else in, are you just saturating it more, or are you separating?
Right.
That's the other thing. What are you trying to get accomplished here?
Right.
And it's it's gotten, especially the younger levels. I just don't think guys need to travel at all when they're 12.
Yeah.
For instance,
right.
You can start a little bit more junior high, but again, is there a need to go 2 hours out of your area more? I don't think so.
Right.
Do you need to at 10 years old go to Orlando for the World Series for USSSA? What is that? I mean, the only people making money on that is Mickey Mouse at Disney World. I mean, that costs a fortune there.
Yeah.
So, where are the priorities? It should be about development, finding really good people to work with your players, getting better, and then coming up with a plan, down the line. Too many people also promise these kids, well, we're going to get you a scholarship. No, you can't. You can't do that.
Yeah.
All you can do is say, here's the best way that we've had going forward. And I've got a couple of kids that are flat out Division I guys, and they're sitting here on the sidelines right now that don't have offers, that don't have letters of intent. I'm baffled. I am absolutely baffled. Why? I know they're that good. I've done it long enough to know, and I was scouted for the Eagles for 4 years. Yeah. I know they're good.
Yeah.
But still, when you get kids like that haven't got anything, it's shocking. And it's not like I don't know everybody in the world. I do.
Right.
But it just happens, and so it's a tough thing. So we keep battling, keep working, and it's a day-to-day thing every day of the year, maybe except for Christmas. To try and help our guys. This is, we take pride.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier that you had, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had 500 plus D1 guys and over 50 big leaguers. And the thing that I noticed, observing you from Twitter and stuff, is that your players, even after they leave, really appreciate you. And that's got to be awesome, because, that's what this is all about.
Well, so you're going to be a person a lot longer than a baseball player. So we try and develop our guys on and off the field. And you know what? We care about them. They are family. I talk to guys that are 20 years removed. So does Tony. We care about our guys, and they care about us, and it's more of a family atmosphere than just going and playing on a team for a year or two. All the guys that we talk about as far as all those numbers, and they're cool. But they're all full-time guys. They're full-time players. We don't have part-time guys. We've had guys from about 12 or 13 or 14, maybe 15 different states, but they will live with us in the summertime. They're not flying in, flying out, trying to help us win a trophy, because we don't own a trophy.
Yeah.
We don't own a trophy. We don't own a ring. We don't own a flag. We don't own any of that stuff. Although we're supposed to get our darn rings from Perfect Game pretty quick. So I don't know what I'll do with mine. Usually I give it to our business manager or our bat boy or something. We don't own any of this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to us to have those relationships. It's our guys have they've got their tweeting and their texting and stuff. They got their texting group text, for teams and stuff. And, one of my biggest honors, I think, is they put me in their group text. I thought, wow, all right, I'm part of the guys now.
Nice.
But it's emotional every end of summer, to know that you're done with this group for the year. It's tough because they're like family to us.
Yeah. Well, Rob, this has been a great conversation. I don't want to take up too much more of your time,
No
but
problem.
what I'd like to do, I'd like to end kind of with your thoughts on today's game. Maybe not so much at the youth level, but maybe, as a guy who's been around this and watched a lot of games for a long time.
Yeah.
The game obviously constantly evolving, but I'm just curious what your thoughts on today's game is.
I enjoy watching it. I love the World Series. So World Series, for instance, I'll give you a good example. I'll give you the best game I've ever seen was just 3 years ago. It was Dominican Republic versus the Puerto Rico, DR and PR, in the World Baseball Championship semifinals. The emotion, the raw emotion that was shown in that game is second to none. And they wanted to play so badly for their own countries to win. It was incredible. And I think that was a big deal for me to watch the emotion and how much they cared. And I think that in baseball, I think we're starting to see that. It's okay to show emotion. Bat flips, I could care less. Good. You want to, bat flip, you want to pop your chain, who cares? Don't show up the other team. But you can feel good about what you did, and a little bat flip, who cares? That's kind of fun. Right. Baseball could use some things like that. It's not showing up another group. As far as the physical part of it, we're just getting guys that are bigger, stronger, hit the ball 500 feet, guys that throw 100 miles an hour. It's commonplace. There needs to make some adjustments. You talk about the shift, and you talk about exit velocity, you talk about launch angle, you talk about tunneling with pitching, you talk about all the power stuff. Games are going to be different because of that, but there's no reason to be striking out more than getting a hit. Guys need to make adjustments. You look at the best guys in the game that do hit 30 home runs, but also hit 300. The guys like Trout and those guys, they're going to all fields. They're not just pulling the ball.
Yeah.
The best pitchers still pitch. They still pitch. You look at the World Series. What's the difference between the Dodgers and the Red Sox? Well, the Dodgers were trying to jack a ball every single time. It was funny. Somebody says, well, look, they did win that game in the 18th inning. Obviously, it was a home run. Well, it took them 9 innings to score a stupid run because their approaches were pathetic, just pathetic. Right. But what did the Boston Red Sox do? There's an article, I don't remember, I think it was in Baseball America, talking about how they let the ball travel more, cut down their swing a little bit, tried to hit the ball hard up the middle, put the ball in play with 2 strikes, and it was incredibly successful for them. And that was the difference, because they were putting the ball into play, getting big hits with 2 outs, with 2 strikes, with man on second, and doing some things instead of just trying to jack every ball. We want to have home runs? Absolutely. They're fun. Sure. But when it's 2 strikes and they're throwing the ball middle away, what are you trying to do? Hitting the ball or oppo or pulling? Why don't you hit the ball oppo on a line and score a run? Right. It still counts. You put the ball in play, they still got to make a play. You strike out, there's no play to be made. And the Red Sox did a better job than the Dodgers, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I agree. This game's hard.
Yeah.
But making the adjustment, the big part of it, and we're just not seeing a lot of that.
Geoff, that'll be the correction. The next 5 years, learning how to combat that. You still need to know how to pitch. You can throw 98 miles an hour, but if it's straight, guys, that's going to slow down for guys. They're going to be able to hit that. Yeah. It's the guys with a crazy movement, guys that can put the ball where they want. Those are the guys that they're going to kill it.
Right.
Guys, it's still going to come down to can I throw a strike by changing speeds, not getting movement, and hitting my spots. And then it's also going to talk about playing the ball and to play hard. Yeah. It's great to. I see these. It's on Twitter all the time, and it's a joke. And you've got these young coaches that are just feeding into this stuff with blind loyalty. Yeah. Elevate and celebrate. Well, guess what? You got a guy 150 pounds, because most of the guys that we're talking about on there, talking about amateur baseball, mainly high school. Right. Very few college and pro guys that we're even talking about on there. But we're talking about normal people. Got a guy 150 pounds with 38-degree launch angle. You know what that is? That's an out.
Right.
It's an out.
Right.
And you've got to use and I'm all for metrics. I'm all for analytics.
Sure.
You've got to be able to extrapolate that information and teach it, though. Right. Don't stay in the lab. Get on the field, teach it.
Yeah.
And if you can't teach it simply, if you got to use multisyllabic words to describe what you're doing, all you're doing is you're impressing yourself. Are you able to teach that stuff? Because if you can't teach that stuff, it's worthless. So
yeah, I got another question that I'm sitting here thinking. With your organization, you obviously over the years have developed relationship with college coaches.
Yes.
When you talk to a college coach, what are they looking for that they feel is missing?
They want to see a guy who can compete. When it comes right down to it, a guy, how does he do? What kind of characters does this guy have? Is he a great teammate? Is he going to compete when the game's on the line, or is he just a BP guy or a bullpen guy? They want guys who can compete, guys who are going to be able to handle themselves in pressure situations. The biggest compliment all those college coaches and pro scouts give our guys is when they leave our program, they're ready to play, whether it's professionally or college. And I think that's what Tony and I think we do a pretty good job with preparing them. Yeah. We have different styles on how to do it, but it's the same result. They need to learn how to compete, and they want to know, especially the best programs. It's interesting. You talk to the best programs, they want to know what makes those kids tick, what drives them. Yeah. Are they good kids? Are they going to listen? Are they going to be able to take some criticism to get better? The Oregon States, the Arizonas, the UCLAs, the Stanfords, etc. They want to know more about that than, hey, how's his bat speed?
Yeah.
That's I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Let's say you ever had a guy that says, hey, we're looking for a guy that he hits 100 miles an hour off the tee. He's got a 12-degree launch angle, and he throws the ball 87 miles an hour. Have you ever had a guy come to you and say, I'm looking for certain metrics?
Yeah, that's a start. It's a starting point. But those are numbers that you get in a lab. The hit tracks. Okay, that's great. You can do that. How do you produce in a game?
Right.
How do you? And they also want to know, hey, is this kid working hard?
Yeah.
Is he working hard? That's a direct result on how much the kid's going to care. What's he doing on his own when nobody's looking? So it's a big deal. One of the things that is a challenge for me is you get these schools and they get these kids and they have them commit as freshmen or early sophomore. And sometimes these kids don't work hard, right, or they don't get better. Combination of the two. Now what? We had 3 kids last year lose their commits because of college's choice. That's a bad precedent. That's never happened. And we're going to look really close at the schools that did it.
Yeah. And
we're also going to look at how we prepare our guys, because it's a two-way street.
Right.
A couple of them just didn't work hard. We told them they should work hard, and they didn't. One of them actually got the two, actually all 3 are committed now. They've got good commitments to good schools. But there's a reason why in the first place. Now, one of them, they lost some scholarships, literally some roster spots because of cutbacks from their school. Bad timing, but it happens. The other 2, it just didn't, the kids didn't pan out. They didn't work as hard from their sophomore years when they committed in the first place. And that's on them. Right. So when you do get committed, 2 things. When you do get committed, you better work twice as hard.
Right.
Number 1. Number 2, you better find some schools that are going to live up to their commitment. It's not their fault. Sometimes, the kids' fault that they didn't, get to be as good as they could. That's the school's fault to take such a chance on them that early.
Yeah. So when you have a guy that says, hey, my dream is to play, and kind of in your case out there, my dream is to play at UCLA. And with hard work, you can get there, but we're getting closer to time and we're starting to see, okay, you're just not that guy, which is okay. You're more of a JUCO D2 guy. What's that conversation like? Kind of telling them, look, you're good enough to play this game. It may not be your dream school, but you're good enough to play this game.
Right. Well, it's just you also have to be honest with them. And you have to say, hey, you know what? That's not a good fit, but this is a better fit. And it's a good place for you to play.
Well, Rob, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for coming on.
Great. Well, Geoff, thank you very much for asking me to do this.
I'm Geoff Rottmayer. Thank you for listening to the Baseball Awakening podcast. Stay tuned for our recap show tomorrow.